AZIMIO Umoja coalition has today affirmed that the anti-government protests slated for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday are on. Now, the government, on the other hand, has insisted that the demonstrations will not happen, saying that the police have not received official notice regarding the protest. With the political grandstands, what's the endgame regarding the demonstrations? Tonight, on the Dialogue K, I'll be joined by Eric Mukono, a political analyst, and Tony Towet, an advocate of the High Court, as we have a dialogue on the current affair. A very good evening to you and welcome to Newswatch on the 17th day of July 2023. My name is Ken Kimani and assistant with the sign language interpretation is Fiona Moresa. Newswatch begins right now. AZIMIO Umoja, One Kenya coalition, has insisted that the demonstrations will go on as planned as they pile pressure on the Kenya Kwanza government to lower the cost of living. While addressing the press today, the AZIMIO leaders affirmed that the planned countrywide protest scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday this week are still on, urging Kenyans to turn out in large numbers to demand for their rights.
That the peaceful protests are planned for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week are on, as earlier declared by our leaders. These protests will go on in line with Article 37 of our Constitution, which, as you all know, provides for freedom of peaceful assembly and picketing. And no person, no authority has got the power to suspend the operation of Article 37 of our Constitution.
Stop any conversation about anything else. Let us talk about food for our people. And that conversation will take place on Wednesday, on Thursday, and Friday. And if people are uncomfortable with that, I have a solution for them. Bring down the cost of living today.
We want to say here to those of you who might be mobilized to come and fight your fellow Kenyans, we are not the enemy. We are not the ones who have added taxation on fuel. All these members of parliament here voted against that bill. You cannot come and fight your fellow hustlers in the streets. You cannot come from Madare and think that you are better than the person who comes from Kasarani. If Kenyans are sleeping hungry because of the price of food, the hustlers are sleeping hungry and members of AZIMIO are also sleeping hungry.
Moving on, women from various organizations today convened a meeting at the offices of Eco Network Africa to address the pressing social, economic and political issues currently plaguing the country. The meeting, I beg your pardon. The meeting aimed to bring together influential women entrepreneurs. Dr. Jennifer Riria, the women leaders, passionately voiced the concerns of the women and their stance in the wake of the recent anti-government protests that have led to the deaths and destruction of property. Here's that report by our very own Melissa Odor.
Dr. Jennifer Riria led the women in strongly condemning the disruptive behavior exhibited by some protesters, which resulted in the destruction of public and private property during the nationwide protests called by the opposition.
This has put the country in limbo and threatened to paralyze our already fragile economy. Such does not augur well for us as a nation. It poses serious threats to our children and to future of generations.
Dr. Riria also expressed her dismay at the use of force by law enforcement agencies during these protests. While recognizing the challenges faced by Kenyans due to the high cost of living, she emphasized the need for constructive dialogue and peaceful means of protests.
Majority of Kenyans can barely afford necessities, including food, medical services, fuel, and other needs. As a result, Kenyans are hungry and angry.
In her calls for tranquility, Dr. Riria called upon all Kenyans to engage in peaceful demonstrations, urging them to prioritize calmness, peace, and sovereignty. She further appealed to President William Ruto to fulfill his constitutional duty by safeguarding the lives and property of all citizens.
We therefore appeal to His Excellency, the President Honorable William Samoei Ruto, to protect the lives of Kenyans and their properties in line with the Constitution which he swore to defend.
For Hope TV News Watch, I'm Melissa Odor.
Thank you, Melissa, for that report. Now, pressure continues to mount for President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga to give dialogue a chance in a bid to address the various issues facing the country. Speaking today during the Leadership Forum program on Hope FM, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair Dr. David Oginde challenged religious leaders in the country to push for private deliberations with the two leaders to find a way forward for the country.
You know, politics is a game of numbers and a game of sometimes what people say in public and in a crowd may not be the same thing that they would say in private. And it is important that we talk to our leaders also in private and just call them to sobriety, to consider the situation that we are in as a nation, which is part of a global problem, that the economy is not good. But for us in Kenya, it is even worse because there are several factors that have compounded our problems. So if we can talk with our leaders in private, call them to see the plight of the ordinary person, I think it will be very important. And I would just urge fellow church leaders to do the same.
Now, the court has acquitted Bishop Gilbert Juma Dea, who has been linked to the Miracle Baby saga. This is after the Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Robinson Ondieki ruled the prosecution failed to establish a prima facie case against Dea. Dea was charged with 5 counts of stealing 5 children, all aged below 14 years between 2002 and 2004 at Mountain View Estate. Dea had claimed he was wrongfully charged with the same offense as his former wife, who was acquitted for lack of evidence. Dea was deported from the United Kingdom by the authorities on the 4th of August 2017 after he was charged in Kenya with stealing and harboring 5 infants in his house in Mountain View Estate.
Bishop Gilbert Dea has been acquitted of all the counts that he has been charged with in reference to the offense of child stealing. Of course, in some quarters, they've called it child trafficking, they've called it whatever, but today the court has cleared him of all the counts and that he's a free man. Actually, he's been acquitted under Section 215 and the court has given its reasons and its grounds. And when you look at the reasoning of the court, then you realize that these were trumped-up charges. These were charges that could not have stood. And if somebody was forthright and honest, Archbishop Gilbert Dea should never have been charged.
Children which was claimed as stolen, the woman who was found with them was acquitted. Still, there was another power that forced the British government to bring me back to Kenya. In order for me to lose case of extradition, there was a fake order sent to the UK that I forged the case order here, which was not true. And that was the reason why I was made to come to answer the charges, which are now ended today.
Away from that, and the Africa Climate Summit website, social media platforms and registration portal have been launched ahead of the summit in September this year. The Climate Summit intends to ensure Africa's voice is elevated globally and integrated into existing international fora, among them the United Nations General Assembly and Conference of Parties, COP28. African countries also aim to use the Africa Climate Summit to table their adaptation investment plans. The inaugural summit, championed by President William Ruto, further aims to address the increasing exposure to climate change and its associated cost both globally and in Africa.
2, 1, yeah!
We have a target of 15 billion trees that we are planting. So that is why now these days I'm called Mr. Plant a Tree. Everybody in Kenya has a target of 30 trees per year, but even if you can plant 100, it's better.
the combination of clean energy and economic prosperity. Because I think this is the key point, and we are also struggling with it in the West, in the Northwest, in Europe, with this energetic transition to make it.
It is the first time in the history of climate change that a continent, and Africa for that matter, is coming together to discuss climate change. At the depth, geometric progression and its effects on climate change interventions, including adaptation and mitigation.
Now, on that note, it's time for a quick breather here on Newswatch. But after the break, I'll be back with at least everything you need to know in the world of business and sports.
Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel that they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking.
Real talk on real issues.
You know, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
When the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi. Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Welcome back. Let's get down to business. Dutch national carrier KLM has introduced a new cabin class dubbed Premium Comfort in between the economy class and business class, with Kenya being one of the first countries in Africa to experience the new cabin, targeted at customers who want to enjoy the luxury of flying comfortably. The new cabin is installed on all Boeing 777 and 787 aircraft flying to international destinations. With the introduction of Premium Comfort, KLM aims to meet the growing demand for an affordable luxury travel experience.
As you can see, it's a dedicated cabin. It offers a dedicated service. It offers more personal space and a good and comfortable seat, and on top sky priority boarding for our passengers. So, as I said before, the specifically differentiated from economy class is that it's a dedicated cabin. It has really a differentiated seat, so it's not just in front of the economy cabin, it's really a specific seat. It has sky priority, so you also have priority in boarding. And it offers you more personal space, more legroom, and more recline. So what differentiates these cabins for us is that I think that it offers more flexibility in our products offering to the clients. So we have seen after the COVID crisis, when the demand came back, there's a more demand for choice. So on the one side, we offer choice in differentiated products that we offer in our tickets. So you can have more price-conscious tickets like a light fare or more flexibility. We want to do the same in the cabins.
Moving on, an Equity Group has officially launched the 2023 Kenya DRC Investors Roadshow, an initiative which aims to promote trade and in the region. As our very own Cynthia Masibo reports, the initiative seeks to provide investors and partners from across the globe with a unique opportunity to expand their business networks in Kenya and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
With a focus on fostering mutually beneficial partnerships and driving sustainable growth, Equity Group aims to position East Africa as a prime investment destination on the global stage by launching the 2023 Kenya DRC Investors Roadshow. The roadshow is set to commence in the coming months, with investors, Entrepreneurs and stakeholders from around the world invited to participate. Equity Group Strategy Manager Brent Mahalei highlighted the immense potential offered by both Kenya and the DRC in sectors such as infrastructure, manufacturing, energy, agriculture, and technology. He stated that these collaborations will enable participants to explore potential ventures, gain insights into investment regulations, and understand the local business environment.
The intention is not that we want to make Kenya smaller. The intention is that Kenya will grow faster as well. So across the group, and Jens has been introducing management over time, has been to increase the capacity in appreciation of the evolving environment, but also the new business lines that we are bringing in. And with those new business lines and with allocation of capital to markets like DRC, the risk basket is somewhat evolving and can speak to why we've hired people like Wafula, why we've got the enterprise risk team in place, as well as the sustainability team.
Equity Group CEO John Mwangi expressed his optimism regarding the roadshow's impact on the local economies and the broader East African community. He emphasized the importance of facilitating meaningful engagement between local and international investors to unlock new business opportunities and drive sustainable economic growth.
It has been one of the fastest growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa and indeed the world. This is despite some fairly strong shocks recently, including the COVID-19 and, of course, more recently, the ongoing war in the Ukraine. And I think this resilience stems from the fact that our economy is very diversified. If you look at the shares of the various sectors in the economy, you see that agriculture, for example, comprises about 22% of nominal GDP. And then the second largest sector is transport and storage, which is about 12%. And then you have a bunch of about 3 or 4 sectors that comprise about around 7% of GDP, and that would include manufacturing, includes finance and insurance, and also includes manufacturing and also real estate.
As the roadshow gains momentum, the leading financial institution anticipates strengthened regional ties, increased foreign direct investment, and enhanced economic cooperation among East African nations. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, my name is Cynthia Masibo.
Thank you, Cynthia, for that report. More than 200 cooperative CEOs have benefited from CSC Group's blended business and strategic management capacity building program that aimed at increasing the growth and competitiveness of cooperatives and cooperative enterprises in the country. Speaking during the kick-off of the 3-day annual Cooperatives CEO Forum in Naivasha, CSC Group Chief Executive Officer Patrick Nyaga said the initiative is set to empower societies with the necessary tools to thrive in today's competitive and dynamic landscape.
One of the key challenges that is facing SACCOs and cooperatives, as usual, just like for any other business, is competition. Of course, you know that most SACCOs are lending to their customers, but we now also know that there are also many other institutions that are lending, not just SACCOs. Banks are there. We now have all these money lenders that are virtual. They are more accessible. And therefore, there's really a lot of competition, with the SACCOs. And therefore, the big question is, how can SACCOs look at that competition and be able to survive even with the competition? Obviously, given the way we are seeing the economic being difficult, there would definitely be some impact, because when the economy is not doing well, then it means that the shilling getting to the customer's pocket is got many competing needs, and therefore there would definitely be some challenge. And one of the reasons probably then why we are here is to see how can SACCOs be able to manage that kind of a challenge by innovating better ways of lending and making sure that customers really appreciate why they need to pay the loans.
Yeah, the challenges that we encounter is
an industry, they cut across all circles, but the impact varies depending on the sector that you are serving.
We are all aware that universities have had challenges in the year. So our biggest challenge is loan default because they've not been able to get their salaries as expected. For example, Egerton University has been receiving 60% salaries for the last 2 years.
And to some sporting action now, Manchester United defender Harry Maguire has been stripped of the team captaincy by manager Erik ten Hag. This comes after Maguire and ten Hag had a lengthy discussion on Sunday where he was informed of the decision. Maguire was named captain by former coach Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 6 months after his arrival at United in 2019, but made only 16 league appearances last season, with midfielder Bruno Fernandes wearing the armband in his absence. Now, after weeks of anticipation, Lionel Messi has finally signed with Inter Miami and was officially unveiled on Sunday in front of his new home crowd at the DRV PNK Stadium in Florida, USA. The 7-time Ballon d'Or winner revealed last month that he will play in the US for David Beckham's MLS club, but the deal wasn't finalized for weeks. Inter Miami currently sits at the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
The best number 10 in the world, Lionel Andres Messi.
Only God can turn a mess into a message.
I have a boy on a wheelchair. Yeah. I'm still preaching on the pulpit.
Amen. Niliona mguu ya nyuma inakuja tu kunikanyaga, imenilenga tu kwa tumbo. Nikaitana tu Jesus.
I got tired of working with the X-ray papers, and one day I just woke up and decided to burn them.
A test into a testimony.
The whole community didn't want to hear that anybody is born again. Excommunicated straight.
Bila Yesu hakuna njia.
Join Sharon Naitore Wangenye on Testify.
Katika hiyo harakati hiyo spirit ikakemewa, mimi nimeona Yesu Kristo namna hii. Kwa msalaba. Opa. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Every Thursday at 8 p.m. for a moment to grow your faith some more.
Thank you for watching Hope TV, the station where you look and live. For feedback regarding our programming, you can WhatsApp us through 0708 222 323, SMS 22232, website www.hopemediakenya.org, or scan the QR code below.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Because women talk more and they are not very strong physically, when they want to hurt their husbands or their children or anybody, they use the tongue.
Families under God.
How can we continue to live carelessly in ease
Join Reverend Dr. Judy Mbugua as she imparts families through prayer, evangelism, and social transformation with the Word of God.
You know, God is not asking you to manage. He's asking you to be available. Amen. And He will make you able and capable.
Families Under God, only on Hope TV. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel like they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking.
Real talk on real issues.
You know, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
When the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi.
Welcome back. Now, AZIMIO La Umoja coalition has today affirmed that the anti-government protests slated for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday this week are on. Now, the government, on the other hand, has insisted that the demonstration will not happen, saying that the police have not received official notice regarding the protest. With the political grandstands, what's the end game regarding the demonstrations? Tonight, on the Dialogue K, I'm joined by Eric Mukono, a political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Kennedy.
And the advocate of the High Court, Tony Towet. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much.
Well, you two can be part of this discussion. You can send in your view or views regarding the topic of discussion on Twitter at HopeTV_KE or at Kennedy Kimani _. The hashtag, as always, is the Dialogue K. Now, gentlemen, I know you've discussed about the opposition protests. I guess this is the third week. Eric, how did we get here?
And it is not yet done. We are still, we still have some more weeks to go.
Yeah.
I think the government knows very well how we got here. We got here because they have refused to listen to what the majority of Kenyans are telling them. The majority of Kenyans are telling them that the cost of living in this country is unbearable. Mm-hmm. The burden is unbearable for the normal Kenyan. For you and I and Wakili Towet here, the burden is unbearable. So the only way, and because they have refused to listen to us, the only way is to use whatever the Constitution has given us. That is protesting. That is how we got here.
Wakili, let me engage you on this matter. We've seen the opposition leading the protest and not Kenyans. Why are we not seeing Kenyans leading the protest, not waiting for the opposition to say now we have to go to the streets?
No, essentially the political dichotomy is volatile. The reason for this is because, in lesser times you will find, the population or people of this country agitating on issues that, are non-issues essentially. When we were in the political campaigns, the main area that many people, as I've said last time, many people were, campaigning on was about, being able to depend on ourselves as a country. That was number one. Number two was being able to, fend off, this excessive borrowing. And, when we got to the place where we are now tackling the bull by its horns, then, naysayers and, people who are cowards would want to run away, because the only way that it seems to be fair is to finance our own budget. Then, rather than going out there to borrow excessively, like I would not want to because they have been saying that every time the government is trying to tackle an issue, it is trying to talk about the woes that was brought by the previous regime. Yet that is true. That should not be really the case, because where we are right now is as a result or was catalyzed by actions that were done by people of the last regime.
So you're blaming the last regime of what you're experiencing today?
Ken, he has said something very, very, very interesting when he started his statement, that we are agitating for things that are non-issues. I mean, to him, unga is a non-issue. To him, the price of fuel is a non-issue. I mean, this is, probably we are different. I don't know. I think I am in the Mama Mboga and Mtu ya Boda Boda bracket. You know him, he is an advocate of the High Court. Probably, but let me try and bring it down to the ground.
What I really meant, I think Mkono is actually taking me.
That's exactly what he meant.
Taking me,
you know, because those are the things we are agitating for. We are only saying, bring the price of unga down, bring the price of fuel down. That is going to make the cost of living.
What you're actually doing is, taking me out of context, because essentially what I was saying is the non-issue is because we remember during the handshake time that, unga was actually slightly even higher than it is today. And it was not an issue. I did not see anyone in the streets. So it means essentially for people to come out to the streets, they entirely depend on, there should be a starting key. The starting key is where, people make headlines, and then they start blaming whoever is sitting in State House to know that they are not listening to them. And then in the event, that someone that lost elections is not partaking in the government in any way, then, it brings agitation to people because that key has been turned. The key is turned because we do not see any demonstrations after the coming of this, taking the reins of power by the government. We saw it after some people said, the people who are, like Cherera's 7 guys who are, taken out of office, I mean, they should be reinstated. There have been a constitutional process that, made them, got them removed out of the office.
So to you, it's all political?
Everything is political to me because I do not see the reason why we would say that, of course, people protested in Mlolongo, but we have seen evidence that have surfaced that actually the reason for the demonstration was not actually the cost of living. The people who started this demonstration in Mlolongo are not residents of Mlolongo. They were ferried in buses.
How can you confirm these allegations that they were ferried?
You see,
you also need to remind him he's an advocate. He has to give evidence, and otherwise things will not be very good with him.
I believe that we are still talking politics here, and if we were in a court of law, then I would need to corroborate what I'm saying. But what I am actually talking here is what I'm talking is what is going on, what we see every day in the media. And this Article 37 of the Constitution is not actually, it is not an absolute right.
We'll get to that point.
Let me just help Wakili a bit. He has talked about political, this whole thing being political and pegged on elections and the Cherera for whoever they were. Let me help him a bit. Last Wednesday when we had these protests, Raila Odinga and the AZIMIO brigade actually called off the rally at the Mukunji grounds, right? But still, we had Kenyans come in and demonstrate, right? The last time, I was so surprised, Ken, that in Mount Kenya, a place where I have never seen demonstrations since I was born, and the last time there were demonstrations probably in the early days of Moi era, even before Wakili was born. I mean, this time, last Wednesday, we had demonstrations in Mount Kenya areas like Meru, Nyeri especially.
If he's talking about what Madhakarua, is Madhakarua with 3 Ndu guys. I mean, was that demonstration?
Talk about Nyeri. Then what happened in Nyeri? We had a lot of people demonstrating in Nyeri because these are real issues and it has nothing to do with elections. These are people who voted in this government.
Well, Eric, you say
still demonstrating.
Eric, you say that we got here due to the high cost of living.
Exactly, totally.
I mean, we have seen what happened last week in the demonstrations. Is this sustainable, and will this solve the high cost of living being witnessed in the country?
It is what we saw last week is a little bit unfortunate because we had loss of lives. But then in our previous discussions here at the dialogue, Ken, I've told you, when the president refuses to listen to the people, the very people that elected him, and the legislature also refuses to advocate for what the people are have sent them in parliament to do, then the only thing that we are left to do is to air our views in such forums as protests. Of course, we are just hoping that at some point, the president is going to come back to his minds and to his senses. Because clearly, he is not in his senses, sorry to say. He is not in his senses. So we're just hoping that somehow the Bible that he keeps professing and the Christianity he keeps professing, at least he is going to be a little bit humane and see the kind of lives and the high cost of living in this country and the life that Kenyans are living, and probably just consider having dialogue and just bringing the cost of living down, because it is of course not sustainable. The direction we're heading is bad, but we need to have a dialogue.
So you've actually agreed that the demonstrations are not sustainable.
They are not.
And this week we'll witness 3 demonstrations on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And actually, AZIMIO today affirmed that the demonstrations are on. Before we continue, allow my director to play a clip on AZIMIO today where they had a presser saying that they will have the demonstrations this coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That the peaceful protests are planned for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week are on, as earlier declared by our leaders. These protests will go on in line with Article 37 of our Constitution, which, as you all know, provide for freedom of peaceful assembly and picketing. And no person, no authority has got the power to suspend the operation of Article 37 of our Constitution.
Stop any conversation about anything else. Let us talk about food for our people. And that conversation will take place on Wednesday, on Thursday, and Friday. And if people are uncomfortable with that, I have a solution for them. Bring down the cost of living today.
We want to say here to those of you who might be mobilized to come and fight your fellow Kenyans, we are not the enemy. We are not the ones who have added taxation on fuel. All these members of parliament here voted against that bill. You cannot come and fight your fellow hustlers in the streets. You cannot come from Madare and think that you are better than the person who comes from Kasarani. If Kenyans are sleeping hungry because of the price of food, the hustlers are sleeping hungry, and members of AZIMIO are also sleeping hungry.
Well, Eric, you've heard from the AZIMIO MPs, that is Wandai, Enoch Wambua, and Edwin Sifuna, and you're in agreement that bring down the cost of living and will not go for the mandamano.
Simple. That is all we want. Bring the cost of living down, and on Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will go to our offices, work, and go home.
But before then, we had the finance bill that was in contention, and the AZIMIO was saying that it's either you suspend the bill in totality or we go to the protest. The bill has now been suspended. Why are they going to the protest now?
But you see, Kennedy, the finance bill has been suspended, but then the price of unga is still high. You know, EPRA, these guys with EPRA, together with EPRA, have refused to bring down the cost of fuel.
But actually, I'm seeing AZIMIO changing posts right here. Because the first time, they said it's the finance bill. But now that the finance bill has been suspended, they are saying it's the high cost of living, bring unga down.
It has not. The finance bill, what we were complaining about was whatever you promised us, give it to us. You promised to us a lighter burden when you come into power than what was there in the previous regime. You know, the finance bill was adding to the burden that was already there. Okay, so even before that, what we were agitating for is at least make life bearable for us, just as you had promised. Just as you had promised when you came in for those barazas to meet the wananchi in those counties, the 47 barazas that you did. You promised us that when we come into power, we will at least make things bearable for you. But then the government, actually not AZIMIO that has shifting goalposts. The government and Wakili Towet here and their people here are the ones who are shifting goalposts, because they say that when we come into power, we are going to make sure that the numerous taxes that are there for fuel, we are going to cut them down. You know, during the debate, his candidates said exactly that. What happened when he came into power? He said, now, I don't think this is wise. We need to review that upwards, you know. He come and sits and thinks the price of funga, if we bring it down by 2 shillings, I think that is going to be bearable for Mwananchi. And then Wakili Towet gets a point here and says that indeed the government has done something and has brought the price of maize flour down. They come here and tell us we are going to subsidize fertilizer. Fertilizer, I talked to my mother the other day, she has never seen that fertilizer. I mean, it was just a cash cow. These guys are just trying to play.
Now, Wakili,
yes,
away from Eric. I mean, you've seen the demonstrations, how they've been chaotic in a way. Tear gas, the throwing of stones, destruction of property. We're supposed to take the responsibility on the destruction of property of Kenyans.
First of all, before we get there, we should actually talk about the germane issue of is Article 37, the right to protest and, you know, the right to demonstration and peaceful procession, an absolute right. You know, it is very clear that Article 24 of the Constitution says that every right in the Constitution will be, you know, enjoyed to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
As these are rights that, you know, are embedded in the Constitution. But Article 25, when you come there are those rights that are absolute rights, like fair hearing, you know, like right to life, those issues that are highlighted in Article 25. But does not include Article 37, the right to you know, to picketing, the right, you know, to the right to, you know, to do peaceful demonstration. It has limits. It's like that. I'm very aware, Mukono saw that the peaceful demonstrations in Homa Bay, for example, that is the true definition of peaceful procession and demonstrations. These other ones is anarchy. I mean, it's breaking of the law. Like, for example, in Mlolongo, before the police, you know, went there to quell whatever was going on there, the destruction had already been done. And when you hear people say that the police force should be trained in modern ways, so to be able to handle and arrest those who are, there are people called the peaceful demonstrators and spoilers of the peaceful demonstrations. But how are the police supposed to, you know, discern who is a spoiler and who is a peaceful demonstrator? When everybody is pelting stones, you could be able to see from the TV that there were stones flying everywhere. How do you get close to arrest a people that are, when there is a jettisons of stones coming your way as a police officer, even if you are really trained in wherever training you can ever get, there is no way that you can approach such a crowd without, of course, using things like tear gas to be able to disperse people so that you can be able to get in there.
Talking of constitutional rights, just before you continue,
it's easy to identify a spoiler and a peaceful. A spoiler has a stone, a peaceful demonstrator does not have a stone.
But essentially, everyone has stones.
All right, just before you continue, the government has come in and said that the demonstrations will not happen on Wednesday. All right, and actually, CS Kindiki yesterday talked about the same, and let's watch what Kindiki said yesterday regarding the demonstrations that are going to happen on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Your rights end where my rights start. Haki zako zinaishia mahali haki zangu zinaanzia. Uko na uhuru wa kutupa ngumi hewani, lakini bora usifikie pua yangu. You have a right to box in the air, but your right to box in the air freely ends where my nose starts. Tutaki Kiswahili mingi. Na kwa sababu ujeuri umejaa Kenya hii, na kutojali sheria, na kujiamini, na kiherehere, na ujuaji, hiyo Jumatano ambao watu wamesema, wale wahuni wa Ijumaa wamesema watatoka waende wakaharibu mali tena, wajaribu. Tumetayarisha. There is no freedom to riot, to loot, to destroy.
Eric, tough words by the CS Interior. I mean, he's actually called them wahuni. You should not appear on Wednesday on the streets.
I mean, I am very, it's very interesting that he's calling these people wahuni, yet the government also has their own wahuni. How? I know you could ask me. Allow me read you a tweet by one very close ally to the president called Dennis Itumbi. This is what he wrote on, I think on 15th of July. He said, "Dear Maandamano chief sponsor, I am writing to book an appointment on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, when AZIMIO has planned protests.
Yeah.
And I will be accompanied by 2,848 people in each of the places you're likely to be." And he mentioned around 6 places: Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru, Mombasa, Muthaiga, Transmara. Now, if there are chaos, then these 248 people, 2,848 people multiplied by 6 will be the goons. You don't need anything else. You need Itumbi to provide these people. That is all you need. I mean, he has already said that he's going to be sponsoring goons to go and meet President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga from where this is going to be. So these are the real wahuni. These 2,848 times 6. I mean, this is a huge crowd, more than even the people AZIMIO will be bringing to Kamukonji and Nairobi to just stage peaceful protests. I mean, we have to be honest with each other, Ken. These are the real wahuni, and the government needs to tackle this head on and realize that whatever is happening around here is also sponsored within there.
Yeah. We've seen the CS saying that there will be no demonstrations. But here is Dennis Itumbi saying that they will go out to meet with the other protesters. I mean, what will this be in case it happens in the country?
You know, sometimes I will not, in as much as I support peaceful procession, I will not be able to advocate for, you know, bringing this group and bringing this group so that they can meet during demonstrations.
But that is exactly what your people are doing in government.
I think you know, Eric is trying to extrapolate the situation. By extrapolating means it won't be meant that he's going to take these protesters to where Raila Odinga is. Raila Odinga could be in Karen in his home. It does not mean that in the streets. In the tweets, I have not heard where the guy say that he's going to bring them so that they can meet in the streets.
It's actually not even Raila Odinga. This
actually, you know what has been happening with these people from this faction of opposition is that they always...
Ken, you need to tell him that I am not part of the opposition.
You've branded him as part of the government. So
yes, he's part of the government, but I am in the people's side.
Okay. Well, what has been happening is that there has been, you know, what do you call, taking things out of context. Like, for example, when Kindiki says that, you know, we will not allow you to or we will meet you during demonstrations. I mean, insinuating that, you know, the police will be there. So this guy say that, you know, the government is out to kill people. No one has said, I mean, if you hear what Kindiki said, no one said that we will come and kill you. No.
Very good. Ken, let me, you see, I have a lot of facts today. I have a lot of facts. He's talking about no one has said that we are going to come and kill you. Let me read a tweet today. Is it today or over the weekend? By Moses Kuria.
I was actually going there. You've talked about tweets, and actually Moses Kuria, it was actually on Saturday. He tweeted some cryptic tweets, you know, and actually they are so... I don't think we can mention them on air because actually they were threats, but he never mentioned who is going to die. Yeah, he actually said someone is going to die on Wednesday and then be buried on Saturday.
Exactly.
And then he went on and said, okay, let me quote it in Swahili. Unasimama mbele ya bus imebeba abiria 53 million, itapita na wewe. He went on again and said, cash reward 50 million. And he also tweeted again and said, so you wait for us to vote for him now, you have forced him to a handshake, tuache kwa mata over my dead body. I mean, these are all serious. I remember the first dialogue that we had, discussion, we talked about Moses Kuria.
And he defended him so much.
Yeah. I mean, this tweet, who was it targeted to?
I think might have been the Twitter account was hacked, something. Because essentially, the last time I was defending Moses Kuria was about the
media.
Yeah, the spark with the media.
Yeah.
Yeah, that of course, you know, I said that in as much as, you know, these guys are being castigated for, you know, talking in such a manner, the media has also been going against these guys. And that was essentially what I was saying. But for these, what you have highlighted right now, I think maybe the Twitter account was hacked or something. Because even Dr. Miguna's account has been hacked many times, where you see the tweet he's supporting the other side, then he comes and say this is a fake, you know, tweet. That we are really in a confusion, you know.
These are pure lies. These are pure lies. You can even see it on his face that this is a pure lie. This was said on Saturday.
Yep.
We had Sunday, and today is Monday. We have not seen Moses Kuria come and tell us, oh, Kenyans, we are sorry. And I realized somehow that my Twitter account was hacked.
Yeah.
Actually, after that, there are many more tweets that he has done after that very, very, very bad tweet there.
Yeah.
You know? So how then, you know, this is just a case of either they mean what they are saying, that they are actually going to do it to whoever they want to do it to, or this is just a case of a rogue public officer, which I believe it is the second case.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, let's move away from who said what.
And actually, even after that, Senator Gerald Gay, a day later, tweeted sniper. You know, I mean, his Twitter account was also hacked.
Anyway, let's move on from there. We've actually seen yesterday the religious leaders came out and they're actually calling for dialogue between the two leaders, that is President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Is this feasible? Can we see a dialogue?
I'd like a situation where, you know, the two leaders come together and talk on the way forward. Because essentially, as Mkono has agreed, this demonstration thing or this anarchy they are calling is not tenable. It is going to, you know...
It's not anarchy. We are just raising our concerns.
You see, it is anarchy because you're not going as per the requirements of the Constitution.
On what grounds?
Because Article 37 envisages, you know, peaceful demonstrations, like those ones that happen in Homa Bay, you know. But or like those ones that Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka led in his home at the beginning of these demonstrations, where, you know, people walk in the street, they have twigs, you know. But these ones of yours, people, you know, are carrying stones, wielding stones.
What happens in a case scenario where the police provokes the protesters? You see, these people, the police are also protesting because you guys promised them a salary rise and you've not delivered it. So they are also trying to tell you, you just had something. They are also trying to...
Guys, we are diverting from the main topic.
These are really assumptions, because when we talk about, you know, provocation, who provoked the Mlolongo protesters? Actually, the police went in there after the damage had already been done, you know.
Well, Eric, a dialogue between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Is it possible?
I think it's it's possible, but the kind of dialogue we need is not a dialogue on how we're going to share government. It's not a dialogue of how we're going to constitute the IEBC. Right now, whatever we need is a dialogue on how we're going to make the burden lighter for the normal Kenyan. You know, Wakili is not a normal Kenyan. Let me just say you and I, how the burden is going to be made lighter for you and I. You know, that is the kind of dialogue that we need at this moment. So it is important that
the high cost of living.
Yes, a dialogue on the high cost of living.
Wakili, as we conclude, what's the end game?
I believe I agree with Mukono when he says that we should not be looking at reappointing the IBC guys who were like dismissed. We should not be looking at a handshake type of dialogue. We should be looking at a sustainable dialogue. But when Mukono says that we have to bring the cost of living down today, it means that we have to employ subsidies so that we can be able to do what he is saying. Because the president cannot come and say, you are going to buy unga today at 90 bob without, getting into the exchequer and then giving it to the, these millers and distributors so that they can take the cost of living down.
So what's the end game regarding all these protests and the hard stance between the two sides?
The end game is, if there is protest, let it be peaceful. Because I do not think for a second that, a government will watch properties like Eastmart lost millions of shillings.
Not from protesters, that was from goons. You need to differentiate between protesters and goons.
Okay, let him finish. Let him finish.
Yeah, it is if people are sitting here today, and then as a result of our sitting, there is something that happens, that goes against the rights of people or property. When we are taken before a jury, it's going to be hard for the jury to say these ones or this one only, or we cannot be able to differentiate who did what, who did not.
So after the peaceful protests, what do the AZIMIO team want to achieve?
You see, I will just regard this as a firework. Whatever AZIMIO is trying to achieve is going to be achieved at a greater cost than it was worthwhile for the victor. It's a firework because everything that they want, I saw their letter, their presser letter, where they are saying that we are in a third liberation. I thought it was about unga. What are we liberating ourselves from?
Eric, what is the end game of AZIMIO as you conclude?
We
1 minute, please.
We need the president to come down to the people and listen to the people. That is all we need, because the guys he's sitting with here do not understand what the people are going through at the bottom. Do not understand what Mama Mboga and Mtu ya Boda Boda is going through. We need the president down to bring his arrogance down and listen to the people of Kenya and the mwananchi of kawaida. That should be the end game.
So the president will listen to Kenyans?
The president should listen to Kenyans.
Oh, okay. Any addition?
As you know, people are having a very powerful discourse about having an African free trade area, having African economic bloc, moving to green energy, empowering the African Exim Bank, dechaining ourselves from the effect of the dollar. And this issue of dollar is even being discussed in the Asian countries today. I can show you a tweet that people in the Middle East are talking about how they can be able to buy the oil without using the dollar.
Yeah.
Because essentially the dollar is the one that is, bringing disarray in the financial topology.
So the dollar is actually bringing all this economic crisis.
Yes, because essentially the reason why our president was, proposing to buy oil, using the Kenya shilling is because we have shortage of dollars in Kenya.
It's just not a problem of Kenya, it's actually global.
It's a global problem because...
Okay. They're adding the problem with the finance bill. I mean, these guys...
Oh, I guess our time is up.
The problem with what we are doing here is, tying the issues to finance bill. Finance bill is a different creature, and then what I am talking about, where we are having, when we are having serious discourses right now, people are calling for anarchy. Just imagine.
We cannot have such a discussion when the normal Kenyan is having food on the table.
All right, gentlemen, this discussion will not end. And actually, you can join in the conversation on Twitter at HopeTV_KE. The hashtag, as always, is the dialogue KE. But as of now, the dialogue KE has come to an end. Many thanks to Tonita Wet, the advocate of the High Court, and Eric Mukono, a political analyst, for coming to the show today. Now, on behalf of the whole team that made this broadcast a success, have yourself a blessed night. My name is Ken Kimani, and Fiona Moresa has been the sign language interpreter.